Around 15 years ago, the space genre was one of the best and most represented genre in the gaming world. Homeworld, Starlancer, Freelancer, and Galactic Civilizations were just a few of the most well-known games. There are dozens, perhaps hundreds of other games that came out during the period as well, and I'm sure, like anyone my age or older who plays games, they could pick out a few favorites. However, since the mid-2000s, there hasn't been very much activity within the genre. Sure, there have been a few games come out in the genre, and they aren't all bad, but they don't really represent the quality of games from over a decade ago. Thankfully, though, in the past years, there have been several games that have released which are of that quality, and a few ambitious titles are trying to be even better. One such title is Horizon. This 4X space strategy game is a game that prides itself on being a strategy game with a different take on the 4X genre, focusing not on the endgame, where we are on the galactic stage, but instead on how we got there. That means that this is not just a strategy game with endless skirmish mode, but instead a story, which leads me to my first pro. The story. The game has two modes. Classic mode, which this is the game mode's version of skirmish, and normal mode, which is the story mode. While I do wish they had different names, normal mode is fantastic. It is a story mode that starts with the discovery of a derelict alien ship and ends in an epic fashion that has something to do with ascension. To avoid spoilers, I won't go any deeper. It starts out with you building your first ships, colonizing your first few worlds, and ends with you controlling a sizable portion of the galaxy. And it allows you to do so in the way you choose. It does give you missions that advance the story, but for the most part you get to decide if you want to win through military conquest or diplomacy. It is perhaps the most brilliant campaign I've ever seen in a 4X strategy game due to how open-ended it is, and it tells a simple yet wonderful story that is perfect for the sci-fi world. Next we have content. There's a lot of content in this game. 10 species with hundreds of planets, different ships, technologies, and ways to play the game. Overall, it's also quite varied, with each of the races having unique personalities and styles, and they really do behave differently from one another. Third, we have level of management. My second biggest problem I have with space sims is how complicated they can become. With only a few planets, it's never a problem, but by the time you have a dozen or more worlds, depending on the game, it can get extremely complicated. Horizon does an excellent job of this though. It has simplified most of the process for managing planets and outposts, meaning that you don't need to micromanage everything. It boils them down to categories, such as farming, manufacturing, or government. You only manage the categories on planets, or if you choose, overall. It's also very simple to build ships and outposts. Small and medium ships can be built anywhere, and then large and capital class vehicles need a simple shipyard to be produced. Research is simple, and you never have to manage it if you don't want to. Except for a few alien technologies, there are no specific technologies to be researched. It's much more like in real life, where you have subjects that are researched, and breakthroughs come from researching the subjects. On top of that, the more research into a subject you do, the more efficient all of your past discoveries will become. Finally, we have realism. I know that's a word that's somewhat misplaced in a space sim, but hear me out for a moment. The way you manage your empire, research technology, build ships, and progress through the story is very realistic. As an emperor, you aren't going to choose specifically which entertainment center you place on Sector 8 of Argu 4. You're going to say, Argu 4 has good resources, so that planet should develop its industrial sector. Furthermore, the absence of a tech tree feels much more like real life. We don't know what we're going to develop next, and neither do you in Horizon. There is also an absence of space lanes, wormhole travel, and other unproven space travel concepts. You can develop faster engines, but what you need is time and patience. All very realistic concepts that make this a very realistic feeling game. Now to the cons. First, we have ship design. One of the features that can be either the best or worst in a space sim is how good is the ship design. Galactic Civilization 2 is probably my favorite for its simple system to design a ship's looks and combat capabilities. The more recent Star Ruler is very technical, but it's still good because of the huge amount of customization available. Horizon, though, is among the worst I've seen. They have way oversimplified the system, leaving you with just a few basic designs with hardpoints that you can change the weapons and other equipment on. The only other way to change them is through research. The efficiency of your weapons, engines, and systems can be increased, and then better ones can be fitted. While simple and easy, that is probably my favorite part of space sims, and Horizon just gets it wrong. Finally, we have the combat system. It's just wonky. It's an odd mix of turn-based RTS where each of your ships gets turns on a system map, but when you get close, you get a lot more moves at once and have a lot of control over your ship. It does work, but it seems that this is the one part of the game that they overcomplicated. A more traditional turn-based or real-time strategy system I think would have been a much better fit and certainly would have played smoother. For my conclusion, I really like this game. It's up there with the favorites that I've reviewed so far because I love this type of game so much. I've got a huge library of different space games going all the way back to Starlancer. This is one game I'm proud to add to that library, and I think it's very much worth buying, particularly at its current price point or especially on a sale. Until next time, bye-bye now.